The Cleveland Browns season is officially over. They just lost to the Houston Texans 45-14, and it was a terrible game if you are a Cleveland Browns fan, but the future is bright for this team. I will say this about the Cleveland Browns. This was a great season for this team, and Kevin Stefanski should be in the coach of the year conversation. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of this. Deshaun Watson early on was looking fine. They only lost one game when Deshaun Watson was a starting quarterback, and he got hurt against the Baltimore Ravens after he looked perfect in the second half against that team that had the top defense in the NFL. And on short week's notice, you have to go out there and scramble and try to get other quarterbacks on this roster ready, such as PJ Walker and such as DTR as well, Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But those guys not able to cut it. You called in Joe Flacco, who was familiar with the offense. He came in. He looked very good as well. Yes, he had a horrible game against the Houston Texans, but it was more injuries to this team than just the quarterback position. Nick Chubb went out a couple months ago against the Steelers on a Monday Night Football game. He suffered a brutal knee injury, and the same happened with Jedrick Wills as well. Later on in the season, you also missed Jack Conklin in the same game that Nick Chubb got hurt in against the Steelers. And then you had to depend on DeJuan Jones, who was a phenomenal rookie tackle at that tackle position. He gets hurt as well. So you're dealing with a whole bunch of spare parts on the offensive end and a whole bunch of guys that were not supposed to be in this situation to begin with. Joe Flacco was not supposed to be the starting quarterback for this team for the rest of the season. It was supposed to be Deshaun Watson. Now, they haven't gotten that return on investment just yet with Deshaun Watson because they traded all those draft picks to go get him. But like I mentioned before, Deshaun Watson did have some good moments with this team. You could continue to build around him, let him work into this system and let him get comfortable with this system. He could be a top tier quarterback with this team. I understand he hasn't consistently done it just yet with this team, but right when things were getting good, that's when he gets injured, and that was just unfortunate for this team. But you have seen a lot of stars with this roster as well. On the offensive side, Amari Cooper was phenomenal this season. 1,250 receiving yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. And David Njoku finally had that breakout season this season with this team. 882 receiving yards and 6 receiving touchdowns. And Elijah Moore is a solid number 2 wide receiver, something that the Cleveland Browns have been looking for quite some time now. 640 receiving yards on the season and 2 receiving touchdowns. We had to put this into perspective. Deshaun Watson is going to be able to go out there and grow and develop with these guys. This was his first true year fully starting with this team at the beginning of the season. He wasn't even able to finish the season because of a shoulder injury. If you take it back to last season, he missed 12 games dealing with a suspension. So if you go out there with a healthy Deshaun Watson, he should be able to go out there and be a superstar with this team with the talent that they have. Now, I don't know how Nick Chubb is going to look in the future, but the last time that we saw Nick Chubb, he was one of the best running backs in the NFL. I highly advise for this team to go out there and look into the NFL draft and try to get a legitimate option that can be a backup with Nick Chubb, be on the same level with Nick Chubb as well, because he suffered knee injury not once but twice in his career, and the first one was going back to college. He rebounded very nicely from that injury. Hopefully he can do the same thing with this injury as well. And you look at the offensive line, like I mentioned before, even the backups that came in, they looked very good as well. So you have a solid offensive line. When you're fully healthy, there are a very good offensive line. You have a star tight end in David Njoku as well. You have good players. Now, Jerome Ford is a solid backup running back, but he's not a true every down back for this team. And in limited action, he did look okay here and there, but he did not have the same force behind him that Nick Chubb had. And you look at Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt is just a backup running back right now. So to be able to go out there with Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt and to make the NFL playoffs and to get some productivity out of those guys, Kevin Stefanski deserves a lot of credit. And no way am I saying that Kareem Hunt and Jerome Ford are some bombs, because they're not. Jerome Ford had a lot of good moments on the back half of this season. He had a beautiful catch against the New York Jets that went for a touchdown, and he was breaking tackles in space as well. But they're no Nick Chubb. That's all I'm saying. And the defense, one of the best defenses this season in the NFL. Give Jim Schwartz a lot of credit, and give the rest of the coaching staff a lot of credit as well, because last season, Joe Woods was a terrible defensive coordinator with this team, and their defense could not stop a nosebleed. But Myles Garrett came out here, and he continues to be one of the best defending players in the NFL. 14 sacks on the season, 4 forced fumbles. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, when it's time to pay this kid, he's gonna get the bag. one of the best linebackers in the NFL today, can rush the passer, can stop the run, and is great in coverage. I always go back to that game that they had against the San Francisco 49ers. I understand that the 49ers didn't have Christian McCaffrey late in that game. No Deebo Samuel, no Trent Williams. But before all those players went out in that game, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was flying across the field, and he was making a lot of plays with the team. And he continued to do that as the season progressed and as the season went on. He is the best linebacker with this team, in my opinion. And you look at Zadarius Smith, 5.5 sacks in the season and 1 forced fumble. Doesn't tell the entire story. He can get to the passer. He can stop the run. He can cause some turnovers as well. He is a very good pass rusher with this team, and they have finally found that counter option with Myles Garrett to go out there and take some pressure off of Myles Garrett as well. Dalvin Tomlinson is a very good defensive tackle in terms of stopping the run and pushing the pocket as well. And their secondary was very good this season. Denzel Ward's a true number 1 corner. I like Greg Newsome as well, opposite side of him. And you also did not have Grant Delpit late in the season, who is a star safety for this team as well. So dealing with all the injuries that they have had, this was a very good season for this team, and I like what they were able to do. But to go out there and only lose 2 games with Joe Flacco, 1 game in the regular season, the other game that they lost was against the Houston Texans in the playoffs. This was a great year for the Cleveland Browns, and they're headed into the right direction. You have the right head coach in Kevin Stefanski, and you definitely have the right defensive coordinator in Jim Schwartz. Just continue to go out there and draft very well. I trust Andrew Berry a lot with this team in terms of decision making and going out there and evaluating the right talent. All they have to do is stay healthy, and they have to keep the big guy in charge and healthy the most, and that's Deshaun Watson. Eventually, Cleveland Brown fans are going to start to get a bit impatient. They already are. But Deshaun Watson's going to have to find a way to stay on the field with this team. The last time we saw him play a full season in the NFL, he looked like a superstar with the Houston Texans. And I do believe that he can be a superstar with this team. You're still in a tough division with the Steelers, with the Baltimore Ravens, and also the Cincinnati Bengals. But you beat every single last one of those teams when the team wasn't healthy. So there's no reason for them to be able to go out there next season and not replicate that success or even have more success. This is going to be a hard team to beat for years to come. And I do understand a lot can change over free agency, over the NFL draft. That's why they have to go out there and keep that momentum going. Keep going out there, selecting guys that can back up guys like Deshaun Watson, that can come in for guys like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah just in case they do come down. And the very interesting thing with this as well, Joe Flacco is a solid backup quarterback in my opinion. I think that Joe Flacco has earned a spot with this team. They may go with Dorian Thompson-Robinson, just keep him around on the roster. They may just still want to develop him and see if he can just be a good guy behind Deshaun Watson. Because remember this, we go back a couple of months ago, the first game against the Baltimore Ravens, he started in that game, and it wasn't pretty. And he had 3 interceptions in that game. It wasn't pretty, but that's a guy that the coaching staff is high on. Hopefully he can develop into becoming a very competent quarterback with this team behind Deshaun Watson. But until that happens, keep Joe Flacco around if he still wants to play with this team. But it's not a hard offense to go out there and just run just based off of concepts, because Kevin Stefanski runs a quarterback-friendly system. A couple of years ago, he made the NFL playoffs with Baker Mayfield. And I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield is just a horrible quarterback, but Baker Mayfield is not a top 5, the top 10 quarterback in the NFL. So to go out there, make the NFL playoffs with Baker Mayfield, and for Baker Mayfield to go out there and win the playoffs with running the same playbook, that says a lot about Kevin Stefanski's playbook and how he's able to go out there and get the best out of any quarterback that he's coached up. Hopefully Deshaun Watson can be that franchise quarterback that the Cleveland Browns have been looking for the last couple of decades, because if he is, the sky is the limit for this team. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Cleveland Browns and how do you feel about Deshaun Watson moving forward? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one, guys, stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Peace.